just looks a bit amateurish, a bit shoddy. For something that you're spending over £6 billion for, you expect it to be like a Jaguar or Rolls-Royce. The battlefield is dangerous enough as it is, without actually the vehicle that you're fighting in making you ill itself. First of all, we're obviously seeing the Ajax reconnaissance vehicle in a tank shed somewhere. There seem to be certain bits and pieces around the vehicle that don't seem to be very well secured to the vehicle, and perhaps showing also some strange wiring and all the rest of it. It's a new vehicle, and you've got bits that have come loose, which no doubt is probably part of the problem with vibration and noise. It would seem to be fairly straightforward to fix this sort of thing. Why 15 years later is it an issue? When you are steaming across, countryside and all the rest of it, things do come loose. This is not your Mercedes-Benz or a Jaguar you're driving around on the motorway. So contextualizing it in that aspect, I'm not surprised that a tank or an armoured vehicle like this has some bits that are coming loose. However, I think with a vehicle that is now 20 years in development and conception, you don't expect to see these sort of things. And I think it is highlighting perhaps a wider issue involved with Ajax. Well, it's not entirely clear what we're seeing here. There is obviously an accumulation of water somewhere in the hull. It appears to be gaps perhaps between the hull and armour, but a large collection of water. And this can't be right. You got water swishing around in the hull. That could impact on your electronic systems and a whole host of other things. It may well be creating noise and disturbance to the vehicle itself. It seems a relatively easy fix. One would have thought if you had a drain hole or two there, that water would dissipate. But how it gets there in the first place is difficult to tell. I mean, at least the water looks fairly clean, so it's not, coming through the engine or something like that. But again, it's just synonymous with something that should have been corrected many, many years ago in this long program. This is one vehicle, and it's very, from what I understand, some of the first prototypes that particularly went to the household cavalry have been rectified in some of the more recent vehicles that have been developed and sent to the military, to the army. But on the face of it, from what we're seeing, it does seem incredible that you've got such an accumulation of water in a new vehicle, and there isn't, some way hasn't been developed to get rid of them. Maybe that is the case in the later versions, but from what we're seeing, it doesn't look good. If they're operating in a climate, Arctic freezing type climate, that will cause a real hazard as well. It's not what you would expect from a modern fighting vehicle to have a lot of water swishing around. Those of us who are in old tanks like Chieftain and Challenger 1, you sort of accepted that. That was part of what came with it. But these are tanks that are 40, 50 years old, not brand spanking new like Ajax. What we're seeing here in this video is the armoured back door where crew get in and out, and if they're carrying anybody. And the video is showing here where there should be some safety device to make sure that when the door is shut and it's on a hydraulic automatic shut system, if there is something in the way, or particularly somebody in the way, it should not crush them. Now, in this particular video, it has failed. Again, with prototype vehicles, what one would expect some sort of failures, and this is a dummy being tested here. So in a way, they're right to test it in that way. However, on the battlefield, that would be incredibly dangerous. I wouldn't exactly say how heavy that door is, but it might be, say, a ton in weight, and with the powerful closing mechanisms that they had, certainly it could cause serious damage for somebody who's stuck there. And you will see many soldiers who've operated on tanks who lose fingers because of these sort of issues here. It's not quite like slamming your finger in a car door, which is extremely painful. This is that on a scale much, much higher. So yeah, these big, heavy tanks, fighting vehicles are very, very dangerous. But what one tries to do is absolutely minimize that danger as much as possible. So something like this is a critical safety issue that will need to be sorted if it hasn't been sorted already. I think with all these videos, we are looking at isolated situations, and it's very easy to create situations in single videos rather than to create a particular sort of point of view, as it were. They are all very, very important, but they are in isolation. So I think people should just sort of bear that in mind. But the overall picture of Ajax is one of safety issues, one of quality issues, and staggering. I think 15 years into development, we're talking about problems with an automatic back door. That just shouldn't happen.
Thanks for watching. For more from BFBS Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.